I'm going to call the meeting to order. Sorry for the wait. I'm calling this meeting of open hearing regarding the FY2023 budget to order. I'm going to take a roll call vote of the members present. We have Laura Rodriguez on.
Hello.
We have anybody else on Zoom there?
I don't think so.
No, in the building here, we have James DePisa, Jeffrey Blaugren,
Present.
Dennis Sears, Danil Kelly, Bonnie Silvers, and Art Pataki and Jane Burke. I would like to inform you that this meeting will be recorded. A quorum has been met here. We have 1, 2, 3.
We have none.
We have all members present.
No, sorry.
We have 8 members present, one absent. I, Jane Burke, Chair of Southern Berkshire School Committee, will be presiding over this public hearing on March the 3rd, 2022. Once the hearing is commenced, there can be no motions or votes until the hearing has officially concluded. The purpose of this hearing is to invite comments from members of the public regarding the proposed FY23 budget that is pending before the school committee. The committee will hear comments from persons present who wish to speak against or for or neither. Through the chair, committee members may ask questions of any person giving comments today. Please be mindful that all comments are public and are available to all once presented. Persons providing any comments at the public hearing are advised that the hearing is being recorded for broadcast on the internet. If you wish to provide any comments, please state your name, your residence, and the organization you represent, if any. Public comments will be heard in the following order. First, we'll hear from those speaking in favor, anyone speaking in opposition, anyone speaking neither for nor against, and school committee questions. The chair will entertain a motion to open the public hearing on this March the 3rd, 2022 at 5:10 p.m.
So moved.
By Bonnie Silvers. Is there-
Second.
Second by Jeffrey Blaugren. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak in favor? Now,
Wait, don't
No, we
you?
have
I
to
would
take a
I
call.
would
Take a
present
roll.
first.
yeah, I was saying that there's nothing to speak about at the moment because we have a presentation and your reactions are very important to us. So I'll turn the floor over to our superintendent, Dr. Beth Regal-Buteau.
Okay, thank you. Yes, please. Yes, please. So we're going to share the PowerPoint presentation, but also out in several places on the website are the 2 documents that we'll be referring to tonight. The budget book is out there, which has even more detailed information in that. And the PowerPoint presentation is also out there. So there'll be 2 documents that people at home can read as well. Right. Fabulous. So we'll just wait for the screen to come up. So I'll just take a quick moment to say thank you to the administrative team and the faculty and staff. This has just been a ton of work. This has been a very, very challenging budget, and it has been a lot of sleepless nights getting to the point that we're at today. So I look forward to sharing the information in here and welcome any questions that people may have afterwards. So we're going to be talking about the proposed budget, operating, transportation, and capital for the FY23 budget. We always start with, is it in full presentation mode here? Nope, go back one. So we tie, what's the matter?
It's a PDF, so it's not gonna be.
Oh, I see. Mhm. We want this to be as difficult as possible. That is how we like to do things here.
Would it be any different?
No. So we tie every single thing that we do to the collaboratively designed vision that we've all had since I got here in 2017. Actually, today I happened to notice was the day that I was officially appointed 5 years ago in the district. So that was a little reminder that I got. Everything that we do directly ties back to the vision that we have for our school community. Now we can go ahead. This is going to be so fun for you, Mr. Thompson. Okay, so we always have a set of guiding principles that we develop the budget by. We're always, as we just talked about, being reflective of our district's vision. And we always tie it to our strategy for continuous improvement. We want to sustain our commitment to educational excellence while managing and keeping the district's the assessments to the member towns very reasonable. We want to provide effective programming and staffing levels to foster this continuous improvement, but we want to do it in the most efficient way. Fiscally responsible, of course. We want to clearly communicate all of this with our stakeholders. We want to allocate all of our resources strategically, pre-K through 12. We're always trying to be proactive and think ahead as opposed to having to be reactive if things aren't going well. And we want to make our decisions based on data and our recommendations on, first and foremost, what's best for our students. So there's a quiz on this afterwards. I'm just kidding. So this is the page of the lead page of our strategy for continuous improvement. These are the goals that we set for our strategic objectives, our priorities, our expectations, and what we've been working towards all year long. So that is out on the website, and we've been referring to it throughout many presentations. And as we live, this is a living, breathing document that we refer to even today in our administrative council meetings. So that is also something you can look at to see how we've allocated the resources to align with the district improvement plan. So let's move on to the next slide. So as usual, I like to give this visual so that people understand the challenges in a regional school district. The state budget process has a number of steps, and you can see we are only at the governor's budget stage. So we are doing all of our estimates based on the governor's budget, and there's all these steps to go. So we have to do our best to plan accordingly. Next slide, please. This is just our operating budget timeline. So this is what we've been working on since October. Keep going because we're on to page 2. And you can see that we are where we are in March at the public hearing stage. So there's been lots of steps and meetings and collaboration and work done through the various stages leading up to today's presentation. Following adoption of the budget, we will send proposed assessment letters to the towns and attend town meetings, hopefully having a budget prior to the opening of the next fiscal year. So let's take a look at the FY23 budget overview. Our FY22 budget was $17,794,556. Our proposed preliminary budget is $18,474,140, which is a $679,584 increase and a percentage increase of 3.82%. I can't talk about how excited I am for this number because last week it was at 10.63%. So there has been a ton of work getting it to where we are now, and maybe a few little wagers. So, and I don't care, it was well worth it. So our operating budget increase is at a 5.3% increase. Our capital budget is slightly down. We'll talk more about that at 2.41%. And our debt, obviously, we're paying down, so that's down 2.93%. This is another one that we expect everybody to read and be able to repeat. So we have done several presentations about where the different capital projects that we have a plan out for the next 5 years. This district has been incredibly responsible and spends somewhere between $350,000 to $400,000 every year in taking care of all of their facilities. And it's noticeable. Mr. Carpenter happened to say that the basketball team who was here taking a look at it the other day said, "How old is this building? 10 years old?" And he said, "Nope, 30." And they couldn't get over it. So that's really a testament to how we have taken care of our facilities in this district. Let's go to the next slide because it's easier to read. So the requests that came in and always do come in higher than what we put forward. They came in at just over 400,000 from buildings, grounds, and technology. Anything that goes on this list includes items costing $10,000 or more. And the decision we have put forward today is to include $343,500 worth of capital projects for the FY23 budget. Now, the major capital improvement that we're doing is the coil replacement. It's really the HVAC system that is being replaced. It's estimated now at $2.8 million, including design costs. We're making a commitment to use our ESSER funding of around 1.4 million, which should get us to about 50% of the project. Again, we did this with the intent of not having to go to the member towns and borrow any funding. Our hopes are that we'll have the opportunity to apply for the state funds that have been specifically designated for HVAC projects, but nothing has come to fruition as of yet. The redesign plans or proposal is due to the district on March 7th. So we'll have an idea of what the phasing looks like as a result of that. So we have a slight decrease in our recommended capital expenditures. What I will say is if the, depending on other factors, whether or not we get this grant or not, we may end up putting additional funding back towards this project. We're going to have to see, but right now this is where we're heading. We're recommending, I should say. So our debt schedule, everybody is from all of our member towns have a copy of the debt schedule, but highlighted are the principal and interest payments that will be happening in FY22 and FY23. They're highlighted. So we're making progress. We're about 5 years into this. I think probably right around the time I started was when this debt schedule went into effect. And the next page is just a visual representation of what we like to see is debt being paid down. So we always like to see that in that direction. Okay, so enrollments. So this year the enrollment is based on the state's October 1 data. So the change, you can see in Alfred has a change. It's down 2 students. Egremont is up 5. Monterey is up 5. New Marlboro is down 12. And Sheffield is down 17. So the net change is down 20 students which is what we're using to calculate the funding for FY23 budget. All the way over to the right, you can see what the change in the percentage share is as a result of the change in the number of students assigned to each member town. Okay.
Mhm.
All right, so let's go to the next slide. So that directly correlates into what the change in each member town's assessment contribution will be. So the town of Alford has their FY23 percentage is 3.04, and it is down 0.11%. And you can see all of the different proposed changes as a result of the number of students that has changed. Okay. So, as we repeatedly state, we strive to maintain our commitment to be as effective and efficient with our resources as possible, to align our allocations based on our student need, and to keep assessments to the member towns manageable. Our overall increase, our proposed increase to the budget is a 3.82%, or the $679,583. Since 2017, our overall budget increases on average have been less than 1.8%. If we add this year's proposed budget of 3.82%, our average is just at 2.05%, our average increase, which is just really, really reasonable for as best I've seen in a lot of years. The proposal keeps our late buses as part of our fleet. It includes funding for ongoing professional development and external coaching for the math initiative at the elementary and middle school levels. We really are focusing on a revisioning of what it means to have a successful K-12 experience through programming initiatives such as the expansion of our internship program and our early college initiative. We're continuing to review and expand our early childhood programming, including pre-K and kindergarten across the district, as well as the consideration of the development of an early childhood center. We are piloting practices for learning curriculum models via the DESE and the Department of Early Education and Care for grades pre-K through 3. Our early childhood program registration and screening process includes some new mandated screenings for all kindergarten students, and we're going to be expanding that to our pre-K students this year. The Early Childhood Task Force is established and meeting regularly to advance this work. So those are just some of the initiatives that we are working on. So let's look at our revenue. So chapter 70 is at just over 2 million for 650 students at $30 per student. So chapter 70 is the amount that the state believes is required to educate each student in a district. So our increase at the $30 per student is $19,500 over what we received in 2022. Our regional transportation reimbursement, which is chapter 71, our rate is estimated to be $788,000, a little over that of our total eligible costs. And that is a decrease of approximately $46,000 from last year. So other than extraordinary special education transportation costs, this is only for regular ed transportation, first of all. Second of all, I'm estimating this is probably in the 75% range, maybe a little lower right now. So I think last year we ended up being closer to a 90% reimbursement. So this is one of those things that could fluctuate and provide us a little more relief as we move through the budget process. And hopefully this is one of the things I noticed in the letter that Renee had helped start to draft that we're asking for, is that regional transportation be fully funded, the reimbursement. We're not holding our breath, but we're going to ask. The town assessments, there's an increase of $527,000 or 3.7%. Our tuition from other than school choice, so people who are tuitioning in We have, is $112,000. There's no change in the number of students, but it's up about $4,000 from last year. And our Medicaid reimbursement revenue, we're estimating at about the same, $70,000. So we are proposing to apply $700,000 of our expenditures to the school choice fund. School choice is a revolving account that has revenue and expenditures off the regular balance sheet. We're going to apply $700,000 to that fund. We are estimating that as a result, we'll have about $340,000 left over as a balance in that account. We don't want it to go too low because we might have to pay sending expenses that, that fluctuates all year long. We're also proposing the use of $700,000 of our excess and deficiency fund as a revenue source to help suppress assessments. Our E&D is in the process of being certified, and we are just below the 5% maximum level at about $830,000. So you can see that we're bringing it down quite a bit to help with the challenges of this fiscal cycle. Last year at this point, we had a certified balance of $609,000, just under 3.5% left over after we contributed $525,000 to suppress assessments. You can see we've really been working hard to bring the assessments down. Expenditures, salaries, all bargaining agreements expire on June 30th of 22. So we are currently in negotiations with all bargaining units of the SBREA, and that has to be factored into the budget as we're going through the negotiations. The health insurance for the first time in 5+ years is seeing an increase in premium costs at approximately 8%. We are facing steep inflation and costs of supplies, materials, and services. In the funding formula from the state, the inflation rate is 5.9%, but the state funding formula capped it at 4.5%. So right there, we're picking up the difference. The transportation bid came in at an increase of greater than 30%. So we have gone back out and we are rebidding our transportation contract. Our expectation is that we will know information around the 14th of March. So we had to do this budget with what we know. As I mentioned above, our health insurance increases. I guess I was really excited about that and said it twice because it just hasn't happened in a while. So I'll make that adjustment. Our energy costs also, and I'm sure everybody's seeing this in their own homes just as well. We're facing energy increases of 30% across the board. Contracted services increases, construction increases, everything you can think about are seeing significant increases due to inflation. So our proposed assessments are, you can see for FY23 per town. You can see what the changes in dollars and the percentage changes, totaling 3.7% proposed increase in assessments in total. I'll just give people, I won't read them all, but I'll give people time to take a look. And again, I didn't have a chance. We've just literally been working up to the minute every time we get in the room, but I wanted to do some trending, and I think it's safe to say, and Chris, you can tell me, but because of the change we made to the funding formula several years ago, many of these would be fluctuating in a much greater way. I wanted to kind of see what the difference would be, but I didn't have a chance to do that prior to today's meeting, but would have been fluctuating far more if we hadn't done that average component across the formula. So what is everybody investing in? Because that's always really important. It's a significant expansion in our early college opportunities. It's maintaining that really critical time for our faculty and staff on collaboration and curriculum writing. We are focusing on reinvigorating our project-based learning programs, especially now that hopefully we're getting some relief from the pandemic that's been of interest. Program enhancement or development, meaning the enrichment of our pathways experience. We're still focusing on in-district inclusive programming for students, early childhood programming, social emotional skills and supports for our school community, and student success for every student in our district. And I found, I always try to end with a quote. So Aristotle said, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit." So that is what I have for you for tonight. And there is also somewhere around 20 pages of other joy. What I didn't talk about, and I think is really worth mentioning, and we did a presentation on it last week or at the preliminary budget meeting in the finance committee. If I draw your attention to page 19 and 20 in the budget book, as we call it, the informational booklet, I just wanted to show the number of grants, because there's lots of ways we've been trying to help keep the costs down. And this is a report that shows our entitlement grants, those that we get from the state based on a number of factors that are calculated. But then there's a significant number of competitive grants that we have gone above and beyond to write. And right now we're just under 500,000, and we have two, maybe more. We have two definitely that are pending, which would bring us to $1 million, and another one that Sandy has in the hopper for another $100,000. So we could be at 1.1 million if we're successful with all of them. And that is just a tremendous support, I think. So, you know, we really view the work that we do with our member towns as a partnership. And I think this is one way of showing our sensitivity to this incredibly challenging budget time. Anybody? I don't know, what's the rules on
Well,
questions?
The rules now is those who, I think the people who have questions would be coming third, because those are the people who are neither for nor against, but maybe they need to hear more information. So we're first going to hear from people who wish to speak in favor. I'm looking for hands up from anyone from the public who would like to speak at this time. And not sure, give you a minute to formulate your thinking. Renee Wood.
Jane, I wonder if it might be more appropriate to take questions first before asking those to say they're in favor or not in favor.
That's fine. I mean, this is just a recommended way of doing it.
So may I ask a couple of questions?
Yes, indeed, you may.
Okay, so Beth, I've been following this. So let me just understand. We got a presentation on the operating budget, the capital, and our debt. Did I miss the transportation numbers? I know you don't have the bids back, but have you plugged in any transportation numbers into this budget?
They're in here as is with the number that we received to date, that because we have to.
Okay, so that includes, so that's basically the Massini bid that came in over 30%.
Is the bid that we received? Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. All right. The second thing I just wanted to ask is, I have finished that letter. I finally got feedback from people who were going to review it. To whom should I send that? Should I send that to the school to potentially distribute?
We can do that because we have a network of people, but I
Excellent.
also
So I'll
thought
have that to you by Monday. Thank you very much.
and I thought that we had talked about in the regional roundtable, the potential of the towns, if they were interested, also send it to the towns, because some people were thinking they might want to send it on behalf of the town.
All right, any other questions?
Lucy?
Lucy Frashker? Yeah, would each person who's speaking identify which town they're from, for those who do not know?
Hi, I'm Lucy Prashker. I'm from the town of Alford. Beth, I'm curious about this FY22 budget number that is in the presentation you gave tonight, because the number that was in the presentation, the proposal overview that I reviewed this morning was $200,000 less than the number you presented tonight. And of course, that radically affects the percentage increase of 2023 over 2022. So how did the FY22 budget increase by $200,000 from this morning to this afternoon?
FY22 or the FY23?
FY22. The number on the proposal overview that I printed out this morning was $17,597,964. I think on the screen you just showed us that number for FY22 is $17,794,556. So the percentage increase changes as a result of that change in what the FY22 budget was. What's the explanation for that change?
Go ahead.
Yeah, there was a formula error on the spreadsheet that pulled the wrong number in for the last year when we compared the 2 years. So we've made that correction for the correct amount today.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
All right. It's always nice when you have an error
In that direction.
in that direction. Lucy, do you have a further question?
Nope, I'm all set.
Okay, great. I'm looking for other questions from the public. All right, so in keeping with the traditional way of proceeding, if there's anyone who wants to speak in favor of this budget for any reason from the public, you're invited to speak at this point. I will recognize you. All right, is there anyone who would like to speak against the budget? And is there anybody who would want to make a neutral statement? Lucy, your hand is up.
Yeah, I guess this is, it's neutral. It's partly a question, it's partly a comment. So the use of the E&D funds to keep assessments down year over year, it seems to me that there is some practical end to the ability to continue to do that. So I'm not speaking against your use of E&D funds to keep town assessments down this year, but is that something that really is sustainable going forward?
It has been a practice that regional school districts have used for a long time. And I think it's making sure that you understand what you think you might be able to replenish. And I think when you have such significant inflationary increases, it's the responsible thing to do for everybody to do as much as they can with available resources to do that. The hope would be that we are successful in, like I said, getting some additional regional transportation reimbursement based on advocacy, that maybe the rebid will result in some savings. And with that, my recommendation would be to bring that money back into the reserves a little bit so that we don't stay that low. But right now, I think this is what we have to do to make this as manageable as possible for everybody.
Thank you.
Renee Wood?
I wanted to also make a neutral comment. I think it's hard to react to this when a major component that we're hoping is going to come in less transportation isn't available. That would have the potential, if the transportation bid is lower, to change some of these numbers, I think substantially, or at least to lower the operating, lower the overall budget expense. So I guess I will just hope that the transportation bids that you get in are significantly lower, and that reduction will be reflected in the next budget that we do see. Now, for each of the towns, we're going through our budget process right now. Is this information being forwarded to the town administrators?
It will be, depending on what the school committee decides.
Thank you. And when do the transportation new bids come in?
So here's the problem that we're having, right?
Yeah.
This is going to be, so we have to approve a budget here by the 10th. So that's the information. The bids cannot come in legally before the 14th. So what's going to happen is most likely what happened the year that we changed the funding formula on town meeting floor. We're going to have a different proposal.
Well, we
If
can
possible.
accept that if it's lower. I'm sure the towns will all be very favorable to that. Thank you for that information.
Any further neutral comments from the public? Because I will then turn it to the school committee members to make comments or ask questions of the superintendent. Let's see. It's so lovely to have 7 out of 8 of the people that I don't have to look at the screen for a hand, but I am looking for flesh. So I'm going to recognize Bonnie and then Jeffrey.
I just want to say, just being on the finance committee or alternate on the finance committee for the first time, the amount of work that went into this. And I really appreciate, and the fact that you heard the whole importance of the late buses to us and preserving our programs. And I will say publicly again, the work your team has done on bringing in grants is pretty phenomenal, especially with you guys doing, Sandy, all this work on top of everything else, Julie, all of you. So let's really hope for the best. I mean, with the inflationary rates and everything to operate. Yeah, so just a thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Jeffrey Blackburn, the chairman of the finance subcommittee.
I don't have the number in front of me, but if you could remind me, I echo Bonnie's appreciation for the incredible hard work that the staff has been doing. To the point of the grants, what was the previous year's grants allocation? Because there was a bit of growth in it. And I think on top of all the initiatives dealing with COVID, school regionalization meetings, A lot of the things that were in flight, this limited administration ended up growing the grant portion tremendously and adding value to the educational quality for our students. And if you could just remind me what that increase was.
So right now, the actual increase competitively is 493, almost 494,000. But then we have two pending, which we expect to hear momentarily, which is another 529,000. And then Sandy has another one in for 100,000. So
Certainly, and then in the previous year that was,
well, so we were, I don't have the previous year in front of me here. This is just what we had this
it was
year.
less than 100,000.
Yes, it was correct, right.
So we've seen more than a fivefold growth of grant writing from the staff despite the challenging year, which I think is incredible.
Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so I didn't
I
see.
think Dennis was first.
Okay, so
That's all right. Go there.
Janelle,
Okay. I just wanted to say thank you as well. This is amazing. I have a very limited finance background, but I know enough to say that this is amazing. I don't know, Beth, if you've had any years where you started with a double-digit number of increase and whittled it down. I couldn't believe it when I saw the 3%. So on top, like Jeffrey said, on top of the year, actually 2 years now that we've had with all the COVID stuff, and then sitting in on finance meetings and the building and grounds, I feel like every meeting was, oh, this increase in cost, this is way beyond what we thought. Oh, the inflation, oh, the cost of materials, every single thing, every major project was increased beyond what we could have expected. So to have it look like this, I think is pretty amazing. So thank you. Thank you.
Dennis,
If I could make a comment, there was a question that was poised as we went through the evening about, the fact that we had used up some of our E&D. That's not new. I've been around here for a while, and again, I'm an old Midwest farm boy. And, if there's something that I know, you don't eat up, you don't get rid of your seed corn. And so that is something that I'd like to point out, that one of the reasons why people come from out of someplace else and admire our buildings and think they're only 10 years old is because we have, when necessary, used our E&D in ways that are smart and the right place to use it to help keep our capital structures in place. That's it.
thanks, Dennis. Second round for Bonnie.
Second round, just real fast, given what you just said, I had the pleasure of showing someone around our building who was interested in using it for a community activity. And he could not believe the tack pack and was convinced that it was, like a 10-year-old, and I had to go back and show him the plaque that shows Tom Consolite exactly 30 years ago. And the fact that through buildings and grounds and Jeremy and his staff and what we tell our students and how they respect our building and our buildings and their facilities, it's really important. It's part of, community pride, and we're maintaining great, I think, really good facilities. So thank you for doing it. And we still have to thank our communities for our roof and our boilers as we pay down our debt.
And our custodians, I see one right out there. Do a really good job keeping it tight.
Like, oh my gosh, shut the door, shut the door.
Okay. Yeah, we want to make sure we didn't invite him in.
That's right.
If having no other comments from the school committee that I see, I would just be saying the same accolades as already been made. I do just want to add that having a superintendent who previously was a school business administrator is an amazing boon for us. And I know when we were looking at rehiring her, we said, you know, we don't think you should be spending so much time on finance, but now we're so happy that you do. Okay, so I would entertain.
What, Art?
Oh, Art, yes.
Well, if we didn't have her with all the work that she does with finance, we wouldn't be in the shape that we are today. Because I've been here for a long time, like Dennis and Bonnie, and it's been a lot of rough years going through budget processes, and this is great to see, because we were at almost 6% 3 days ago, and now we're at 3%, so.
Some of that's just
phenomenal.
time. Sometimes we just need to, you know, look at it when you're working up to the last minute. So, and, you know, I have to say, people, there's thousands of formulas in these documents. And like we said, when we presented last week, we are sliding into home right now. We are going to go back and look at this and do all, it's fully to be expected that there's going to be changes and adjustments made. So we just wanted to take a more careful look at that. So some of that was just some luck, and some of it was taking the time to really think through different lines. So it's going to continue to change. So I'm sure that's why we're betting, because we go back and forth with how low can you go, you know, is our goal. So.
All right. So I will take a motion to conclude and close this public hearing.
So moved.
Second,
I guess we do, another roll call vote. Laura,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Jeffrey,
Yes.
and Dennis,
Yes.
and Danil,
Yes.
Bonnie,
yes.
Art,
Yes.
and Jane, yes. Thank you all for coming, and we hope we have good news for you after the 14th.